and again, like if you're a quotes person, stick around for the like Roman Hemby too, because like again, chills listening to him speak. But Omar Cooper was at the podium. I don't know if he was next or I just go by the order of the videos, like reverse chronological of the videos were posted. So I think the EJ presser is like technically the oldest, and so that's the order that we're going in. So Omar Cooper was at the podium next. They asked him what are the similarities and differences between Rourke and Mendoza. He said Fernando's got really good spin, but he said they're really just not. They're not very different quarterbacks, which is exciting to hear because it felt like obviously Rourke played injured, but the most impressive part about Rourke's game was his ability to process, his ability to just consistently make the right decision. And if they're not seeing any type of like the worst case scenario that you would feel is if you start hearing like, yeah, the kid's super athletic and like gifted, but like he's not making the right reads. But it doesn't seem like
I mean,
I haven't heard that at all.
they won't go out and
No,
say
I know
that.
they
So
wouldn't
they'd be
say
like,
that.
yeah, if they're not saying there's any difference, I see what you mean in terms of like we know Mendoza probably has overall better tools than Curtis Rourke does, whether you want to talk about specifically the mobility piece of it, but also, you know, the arm, the quick release, the arm strength. If that's up to par to where Rourke was, if not, and we might be even seeing a step up, and processing isn't an issue. I mean, the guy was a Yale Cal like commit. Like, I don't think
No, I know
learning
it's
the
like
playbook's gonna be an issue with this guy. It's just not. And obviously, he loves football like every guy on the roster. But I mean, just hearing those things early on, like, yeah, I'm probably the biggest Fernando Mendoza believer out there.
yeah.
And
Last week you're
like
like this Mendoza cat, and
this
this
Mendoza cat. I mean, he's Andrew. It's Andrew Luck. Like, I'm not that. I know that's a lot to put on a kid, like that type of comparison, but that's just like what I think of. Like
It's a
super
wild
smart, like
comparison.
smart, cerebral, like same build, like
Same
6'5",
build.
230. Yeah, 6'5", 230. Like they're
I
Andrew
feel
Luck
like
could
Luck was
Andrew
definitely
Luck could
bigger.
move. Andrew Luck could move.
Yeah, I
I
feel
mean, yeah,
like
he
part of
might
what
maybe Luck has like 15 pounds on him, but also consider the fact that Mendoza is, you know, he's probably a little faster, but you know, it's the same type of like when they throw the ball, it looks
what does
very
it look like?
similar. Looks very similar. Tight arm rotation, quick
Do
release,
you
zip.
before we get
Zip
before we get
is the one we keep on hearing.
before we get back to Cooper's presser, do you think Mendoza would appreciate the Luck comp given Luck's Stanford ties, or do you think he would be offended you just compared him to a Stanford guy?
Well, he's a Hoosier, so he shouldn't be offended anymore. But I get what you're saying. I think he'd take the comp. I mean, that's one of the best draft prospects of all time. So like the fact that am comparing him to Andrew Luck is kind of crazy on my end and probably a little out of pocket, but I'm on an Indiana podcast. So I'm just gonna tell you what my eyes are telling me. And you know, it just looks like Andrew Luck to me. Just the 6'5", mobile, can process things very quickly type player. Is he Andrew Luck? I don't know. I'm just telling you he looks like him. It's very different. Like when you're out there on the field, like it just comes down to, are you a gamer or not? And Andrew Luck was one of the best gamers of all time, of gamers. Like whether you want to go like Chiefs comeback in the playoffs when he was on the Colts, or he throws that pick against USC and he decks that kid and forces the fumble and gets the ball back. Like I don't know what examples you need from Luck, but he's obviously like a folk hero. So like to compare Mendoza to him is crazy, but that's just what I see. And I mean, read the master of the eye test. Okay, just wanted to make sure that was there.
You know what
That's
I'm
just
thinking
let's see.
about, Brad?
I hear. I'll watch more Mendoza, and I'll try to think of maybe some other non Hall of Fame quarterbacks that I can compare him to, and see.
I'm not saying I hate the
Yeah,
comp. I'm just saying
yeah.
let's maybe like
It's not
he
like
can still
crazy
be
pressure
really good and not be the
and not be
best
as good
draft
as Andrew Luck,
prospect ever.
and not
Yes.
be as good as Andrew Luck. Yeah,
That's
no,
just
I
my
hear you.
point.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, I'm not, like I said, crazy comp in the sense where it's like kind of a lot of pressure to put on someone. But obviously, you know, I'm on a live show that probably has less than 500 subscribers, and I'm just spitballing. I'm telling you what I'm seeing about Fernando, and I'm very excited about him. Period.
Yeah, we're pumped about him. You know who else is pumped to have him throwing to him? Omar Cooper.
Omar Cooper. Let's get back to his press conference.
Who said he's been they asked him what he's been trying to develop. He said everything, but he said specifically getting in and out of his routes, like at the top of routes. And he said understanding defensive schemes, so he doesn't have to think as much when he's out there. He could just play free. So just unlocking another part of his game. So it's like maybe again, maybe some of the things where we're like speed maybe wasn't the best aspect of an Omar Cooper's game. It could be that he was processing and he wasn't able to play as free.
As fast.
In another year in the system, maybe he doesn't even need to physically get significantly faster, but his play speed, because he knows what he's doing and understands how they're going to try to defend him, is going to naturally get faster. So I think it's only natural to expect at least a little progression. So it's cool to hear a lot of these guys talk about, especially the ones that are at such a high level, what they're refining. So it's not so much like technique based or how to run this, but it's what are they doing to try and stop me, and how do I beat that?
Yeah. No, I think we've even quoted him as saying that he worked on his speed in the offseason, or maybe that was Surratt himself, but maybe he alluded that him and Omar were specifically like getting their speed up and stuff like that, which we probably made a joke about the Notre Dame game and things like that. But that makes sense. Like getting separation on top of routes, like that's exactly what happened in the Notre Dame game. Getting that, because at the receiver position, like I've played the position, so I can kind of speak to it a little better than a lot of other positions. Like, yeah, speed kills. Obviously, you see your Tyreeks of the world and stuff like that. But what makes Tyreek better than, obviously he has the 4.2 speed, but with receivers, it's all about acceleration. It's all about changing speed at the top of the routes, getting that separation at the last moment when you need it, when the ball's in the air, that type of stuff. And obviously Tyreek having 4.21 speed, he's able to kind of run at 4.4 and then go 4.2 like that. And that's what makes him tough to guard. It's not the fact that he can run a 4.2. It's the fact that he can go from 4.4 to 4.2 very easily because he's so fast. And I think that's an important point to make. And that's why, that's what Omar Cooper is working on. And that's what Surratt needs to get better on. And it's really all about technique at the end of the day. And to Tyreek Hill's credit, like the dude was called like a kick return specialist early on in his career. And he really worked on his craft at the route running and became one of the best receivers in the league. That shit takes time. You got to put the work in. And obviously we have guys that do that. So just excited to see what progress they make come who we got? Old Dominion at home on August 31st, I think. Something like that.
Yeah, I'm pumped. Can't come soon enough. They asked
officially
Omar
football season, so fire me up.
They asked Omar about the Tyler Morris injury. They asked him. Sig in the chat wants to know what your 40 time was.
Oh yeah, you want to know? Well, I played high school. I was not a Division I recruit. I ran a clocked 4.87 my junior year of high school. So yeah, I can go from 5.1 to 4.8. Real nice.
You don't want to see that gazelle in the open field.
I got 6'2" length, so it wasn't like speed wasn't the biggest part of my game.
Possession guy.
Yeah, it's a possession receiver. Yeah, White Lightning. Hey, that was a nickname. I got. White Lightning. Heard that one before. Luminator, White Lightning, Ranchy Moss, whatever you want to call me. I've heard them. Ranchy Moss is low-key one of my favorites. That one was
that is insane. to some receivers with actual speed. They asked him what freshman LeBron Bond and Miles Kendrick can add to the team. He said they can add a lot. They're getting through their bumps and bruises, obviously, as freshmen, but they've been doing well. They've been looking good. They asked him how the transfers are acclimating. Said Makai's doing really well. He's still learning the offense, but obviously they're grinding. Again, they asked him what makes the offense so good. And then he said it's the scheme. The coaches watch a lot of film, and they put their guys in a position to succeed. And they have a lot of playmakers. And it's like he didn't say this specifically, but what the appearances of the three running backs at the presser today tells me is that, like, I know last year it was a very strict, like, 2-back rotation. We're going to see all three of those guys this year. And the offense while there's going to be very similar notes to how it's operated, I think there's going to be a lot more versatility using those running backs. And it's going to look, I don't want to say it's going to look like Kansas, but I'm not going to be surprised if they were watching like a lot of 2022, 2021 Kansas with the way they were using all those running backs. Whichever Kansas team I'm talking about, that was like all those jet motions and stuff like that. Like I wouldn't be surprised to see that this year.
Yeah, I think we've alluded to that when like Lee Beebe got his commitment early on, and we're talking about like what the running back room could look like. And I think Beebe, Roman Hemby, and Kalen Black will get a lot of attention in most games. I think when we go to Ohio State and we go to Penn State, or when we go to Oregon and we go to Penn State, those specific games, I think we're going to see a lot more Roman Hemby. But in terms of over the course of the year, obviously we're going to see tons of Beebe, tons of Black. But I mean, you bring in a guy like Roman Hemby, who's a true workhorse, can get 20 carries a game and still, break off the big one at the end in the fourth quarter. A true, X factor at that position. Like, all due respect to Justice Ellison, true workhorse did not have the 80-yard breakaway type, finishing speed that Roman Hemby has. So just having that, and we saw that when in that Ohio State game, like in the Notre Dame game, who was getting all the carries? Justice Ellison. I think it's going to be the same type of feel with Roman Hemby in terms of his role specifically. But I agree. I think it's going to be a lot more Beebe and Black as opposed to just Lawton like it was last year in terms of giving the workhorse some relief throughout the course of the year.
That's Coach Justice Ellison to you.
Yeah, Coach Justice Ellison. He's probably a great coach, and he'll probably tell you, like, he's probably telling Roman Hemby, like, you got a little bit more, kick in you than I do. So, make sure you're finishing those runs in practice and stuff like that. He's probably, doing a great job. Do we have a nickname? Juice, right? Juice, Coach Juice.
Yeah, Coach Juice. Yeah, I think all three running backs talked about him, but we'll get to them in a second. They asked Omar what he enjoyed about EJ. He said they've gotten closer over the year. He said he's probably the funniest guy in the wide receiver room. So obviously, when you have the more you listen to these guys talk, all these guys, anybody on the team, they've had 10 pressers, 11 pressers, whatever the number is. Like, there's a lot of high character, like high quality dudes, and you just like, they're just extremely likable. But yeah, to hear to get a guy back like EJ Williams, who has so much talent, just to hear that he's also important in the locker room as well, it's like, yeah, it's all in one package with these guys. It's really cool. And then they finished up asking Omar about how it is, or how he feels being able to play with Elijah Surratt, and what it's like for defenses to be able to guard both of them. And he's like, they're both extremely versatile, and you can't guard them both. You have to choose.